but I want to start out. I've got a little bit of housekeeping things. You announced the chief retiring. Chief Callahan and I work really well together, and I'm going to miss the chief. Also, Chris Berry, his deputy chief, I don't think Chris is here, is retiring also, so we've got a lot of leadership that's stepping out. And our CAO, Rod Bove, is retiring in August. So Rod's here, I believe, and I got to point him out also. He's served the city for well over 30 years. Our new CAO is here also, Matt McDonald. Matt, we hired him. He's been with the city for longer than I have, or no, I've been there longer. And you always say, and I've always said to HR, is you hire on skill set, you fire on personality, hire on personality, and train the skill set. Well, Matt has both, so we're really lucky to have him here. He paid me to say that, though. I'm going to start out with an apology. This was a tough speech to kind of write. I don't like being critical, and I apologize if it does have that in there. And I try to be positive, and Councilor Roulette told me to be positive today, so I'm going to try my hardest. I'd like to thank my council here. Some are here, some are working still. It's about a team, and it's just not me, it's our team we built. They've all been introduced, and I paid for their breakfast, so that's another thing. So to moving on, I'd like to take you back into the future, I guess, and talk about some of the things under my first 8 years. I started in 2015. As a politician, what have I gained? 40 pounds. What have I lost? A lot of hair. I gotta get my glasses here. To start out, in 2006, some of the issues are the same issues we have here today. One of the big things in 2006, we were orphaned about 10,000 patients in the doctor recruitment area. We were able to sign about 23 doctors, 24, and we were on a forward path to solving those patients, and we were almost there. Another thing when we started was we were out of industrial land in 2006. We expropriated about 800 acres, and we were very good, and Karen Post was economic manager. Well, most of that land, or all that land, has been sold now. So we swing into to this year. We're looking at, we have no industrial land. We have, again, 10,000 to 15,000 patients that we're short. And the new thing that has hit us, and probably one of the biggest social issues we're going to have, is the unhoused or homelessness. When I left in 2015, we basically had not really any visible homelessness or unhoused, and we've come back and we're approaching over 200. And it's not going to get any better. I hate to break that bad news to you, but in the speech I'll tell you what the city is doing. Unfortunately, these issues are back. It's kind of like Groundhog Day, and we've got to move through them. So I've got a bit of a plan how we're going to get there, and with the community help and the chamber's help, maybe we can do this. To touch on homelessness, it's a provincial issue. It is a city issue. Obviously, it's affecting us in the city here. It's affecting a lot of businesses and affecting a lot of people that are faced with being unhoused. What is the cause of homelessness? Obviously, the economy for some. It's mental illness, and it's drug addiction. Those three issues fall under the provincial purview, and it's hit us front and center. My calls on that are usually about anywhere from 4 to 5 a week to upwards of 20. And so we'll talk about where we're going to get there. Before we get there, we're going to do some budget talk. And I wasn't going to put the budget in here, but I just want to show you the difficulty in all councils have had in budgets. And we have two budgets, our capital budget and our operating budget. So to speak on the capital, this year was $71 million in capital spending, and our total assets are $2.3 billion. So when you do the assets of what we're spending on capital, it's nowhere near where it should be. But unfortunately, we can't run a deficit. We have to run a balanced budget, which is probably pretty good, or we'd be in a deficit. And we're looking at marginal tax increases when we have to do things. But take $71 million this year in the 24 budget. Our biggest project is growth, and we're looking at the Avalois sewage pumping station and the Loyalist secondary plan, which out of the $71 million, the project's $55 million. This will be the biggest project the city of Belleville has ever had in its history, but we need to get more housing lots. As everybody is aware, both governments are pushing for more residential units, more density, and how do we get there? So basically, this project is going to allow us for housing for about 20,000 people in our growth, and over 10,000 units of built houses. Other things are resurfacing roads, calls and council will say to you, we'll never do enough roads, we can't get them all fixed. And so we do stuff like resurfacing and repaving, but for a kilometer or a block of city road for pipes and for the pavement, you're looking upwards to $3 to $4 million to do a stretch of city roads, so it adds up pretty quick. Other things in the plan, pumping station, 2 snowplow trucks that you're almost looking at $1 million, and some wastewater issues and water issues which are close to $2 million, and a little bit of a park that we're trying to finish. But when you look at that, that's not a lot of items, and I think this was the first budget we ever did in capital, or in my experience, there was only 1 page of projects, and there it is. So we put a lot of projects off for next year, so I think next year will be bigger. But again, it's about building houses, and when you look at the shortage of housing supply, there's different housing supplies. But I just want to tell you a story from about 2 months ago. A real estate agent said to me she had a house for rent for $2,400 on Rosewood, had 81 applications for that house. It's terrible out there, and the rents have increased, and I think everybody is aware that there's going to be a whole generation that don't have houses. And I say to them, you know, if you can't get a house, you got to find richer parents. But unfortunately, there's only about 18% of us that can help there. So moving the operating budget, or the day-to-day budget, we're approaching $200 million, and $126 million of this is funded by property taxes, user fees, and then we have a few grants on that to make up the differences. But you look at our internal budgets, our staff did a heck of a job doing it, and we're at 1.79 internally, that's all. But we have to, outside agencies, Hastings County and other agencies that bring us budget, whether it's Quinte Waste Management, they're responsible for 45% of the internal budget increase, where we're only dealing with 55. And when you look at those increases for outside agencies, it's 14 or 15%. We did a budget survey, and Councillor Carr is always preaches or to the choir that we need to go for more input, Paul, and I'm sending you out too. So, and we've achieved that. We'd like to get the numbers up. But the big issues on that was our number 1 issue is doctor recruitment, and again that goes back to a provincial issue. My council in 2006 started the program, and we've probably spent north of $5 million of recruiting family doctors. We're at about 45, Karen, now, 46, 47, I think you were getting the number to go up. But if we wouldn't have done this, and past councils wouldn't have adapted the program too, I just don't know where we would be. And it would be, it's a big issue now with orphan patients, and it would even be worse. Protective services. Growth should pay for growth, but we haven't hired any new police. We've replaced them since 2015. When you look at that, 2015, you look at the growth of the city, which we're up about 7,000 or 8,000 people, I believe. We're faced with a lot of mental health issues that the police are doing, whether it's the unhoused or issues that they're really never been hired for, but they're adapting well, and part of that has been the leadership we've had there for the past years. So we've had a plan, the police board and council endorsed it. It was 18 officers, I believe, over the next 3 years. We hired 5, or we're in the process of hiring 5, but it's a tough job as a police. Used to get 200 to 300 applications. I believe last intake we had 30 applications to hire 8, and I believe only 2 made that through the process. Looking at fire, we hadn't hired any fire since the 60s. And you look at that, and the fire are here today. I'm sending them out again, so I take the glasses off to make sure I say everything right. We've gone to the perfect storm. Our community's expanded. You look to the north, you look to the amount of houses we're building. How do you do your emergency services on the same number of people? And when you look at call volume for police and you look at fire, they were up about 18% this year. I know overdoses at the fire handle 24 in one shift, and this is taking a lot of our resources. When we look at building and planning, we're doing a survey on development charges. Nothing exciting about that. Social housing, and what are we trying to get to social housing? The federal government, we'll blame this one on Justin Trudeau, but it was back about 20 years ago. The federal government got out of social housing. And we need 3 types of housing, whether it's transitional housing, which gets somebody off the street into a non-permanent housing, but you can stay transitional in about a year. And then we need geared to income, and this is where the governments have failed, and in all governments, I would say. It's based on your income. So if you're only making a classic of $1,000 or $1,200 a month, it's based around 20 or 30% of your income. What governments have been is in the public sector partners have been affordable housing. And when you say affordable housing, it's 20 or 30% off market rent. So when you look at our market rent here, we're about $1,400 or $1,500 for a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. Take the math off of that and you're still around $1,200, I believe, in rent a year or rent a month. And people just can't afford that. And when you have, I ran into a guy the other day that a good friend of his was evicted on a rent eviction. His income was $2,000 a month. Well, he's living on temp right now. And you just, there's so many people out there that are living in their cars that have just had bad luck, and we need to try to take care of them. Economic development, again, we talked about being out of industrial land. And industrial land, basically, we sold the last piece, or I said the city sold it, or whoever, 100 acres for approximately $45,000 an acre. And we're down to 7 acres now, which we have somebody looking at that right now, so we're going to be at 0. Unfortunately, past leadership did not move towards servicing that land. Our council last year in our first budget, we passed an EA, which is environmental assessment. It's a 12-month assessment. So for that, we're another year out. By the time we build the plan, do the servicing, we're not going to have an industrial land to probably 2017 to 2018. So we folded up shop on that one. We do have the land, let us say it's not serviced. And unfortunately now with servicing costs, it's probably going to be about $300,000 to $400,000 an acre that we're going to have to sell that land. So we went from $40,000 to that price. It's going to be tough to get out there, but we've had 2 companies in the past 6 months that have been in. The EV business is moving, but they wanted 100 acres each. So we pressed staff to see how far we could get this done, and the soonest we could get it done would be about 2017, but that's not acceptable to a lot of businesses. So we're basically shut out of it and they're walking down the street, but that's a story for a different day. Moving through this, we look at the urban tax increase. People are always upset with tax increases. We do a comparable. Belleville urban was 5.78, and as you move down the chart, you can see with other areas of our city were lower. Comparable municipalities, we took all the low ones out here and we only put high ones in, but these are our surrounding communities. And we were lower, but we chose to invest in our unhoused or our homelessness with supporting the Alhambra Hall, which is going to be the bridge project. And what we need, and part of the solution to solve the unhoused, is you need a continuum of care model. And that includes the bridge, which is going to be the first stop that will provide some wraparound services. It'll provide the food kitchen, and it's going to provide 24-hour service for a bit of shelter. But it's expensive, and the provincial government does not support capital projects, but we're going to get there to what they're going to support. So we're moving on, and with that, you can see what the investment of the city has been. And it's a small project, but it is a large project. And it's taken some time, but unfortunately, the builders in here and that will know that you just can't build it in a year. At budget, it was a discussion, and I did get some complaints on what we did to support the Alhambra Hall to get the renovation done, which is a 1% in your tax increase. So it works up to about $3.50 for the average house a month. So the math on that is around $40. So that'll be $40 on your taxes this year, $40 on your next taxes. But what I see is the church was built for about 16 to 20 unhoused, and right now they're servicing over 100 people at that facility every day. It's not properly oriented towards that, and there's no land mass that is there. But I can honestly say, and it's causing a lot of issues in the downtown area. It's causing a lot of issues in growth. So by spending that money, my hope is, and council's hope is, that it's going to spur the economic growth. Whether it's Hotel Queenie condominiums that have been scheduled on the property for a while, but on a pre-sale, you know, just be honest, who's going to buy one there when you have the center there? And that's the unfortunate thing. We've had interest in the Intelligencer. We helped out in our brownfield with that last council meeting, so we have had a couple entrepreneurs that are looking at that for condos also. But it's the chicken and egg, and we'll get there once we start with moving in and getting the house a better facility. And you know, the downtown merchants, it's hard for them, and it's hard for anybody in business. So our downtown is safe, it is thriving, and I can say the president, or Dale, past president, we've cut more ribbons in the last year than I've ever cut in my 8-year history, and a lot of them have been downtown. So budget, one thing that we didn't budget, and some people are pissed off at me with this too, but I discovered that user fees are subsidized quite highly. The user fees, whether that's playing hockey at the rink, swimming in our pool, renting a ball diamond or facility, the goal or the gold standard is to subsidize rec and facilities to about 70%. So that's what we're subsidizing. If you're renting a nice arena at $182, we're subsidizing 70% of that. Right now, we're subsidizing 90% because user fees have not been raised since 2015. So I challenged staff and council challenged them to come up with a plan to start raising user rates. And it's either paid for in user rates, the people that use it, or it goes on your taxes. And is it fair for, Evelyn that lives on Cedar Street that's 80 years old to pay for beer league hockey? I don't think it's fair. And so the user rates went up a bit this year. It generated, and not a lot, we have a lot of customers, I'll call them. Swimming, we were $3 on the swim. I think we're raising to $5. Quinny West is $7 and $10 still. But I'm getting now that, that was a 60% increase. How dare you do? But we do have allotments at the Sports Center for people that can't afford it that will subsidize those rates. By raising a few rates at $1 and $2 here, we're ended up in a 1 year's budget to generate $300,000 with very little paying. And I think, everybody here would agree with me, and if you don't, anyways, that's it. The people that use the facility should pay for the facility. And they're gonna not, we'll still be subsidized, but how do we get from 90 to 70? Probably not in my lifetime, but I don't have a lot of time to live. Upcoming projects, these are exciting. We announced our first hybrid bus, and Councilor Brown is the chair of that committee. And when the bus came in, all I got was pictures of this bus. And you were driving it, I think, that day also, Catherine. So it's out there, and I think it's all labeled up. We have Hillcrest Park. It's a beautiful park that last council started. It's pickleball courts. I think we have 8 there. It's lawn bowling. And it's a 3-stage project, so we are still working through it. And it's probably going to be around the $8 million mark to finish it. The problem we have, and we've been handed this, is Myers Pier. We've known this for probably 8 to 10 years, that it needs major repairs. And council approved a study to look and see what that is going to cost us and to get it up to a state that you can even walk on it. It has fencing on it now. Fire trucks can't make it down, and it's one of these issues that's probably going to have to be closed eventually. Cost of that is going to be astronomical. And I think you're probably looking at $20 to $30 million to fix a pier, depending on if we take it right out of the water, and staff are working on that to see what's the challenges that we can get done and afford it. Belleville Agriculture Society, it's basically the fairgrounds, and we'll call it that. That was moved to a site out on Highway 37. The first tender, the budget of that was $12 million. The first tender came in, it was $42 million or $40 million, which again wasn't acceptable, I guess, or was tough. It had a lot of project growth or creep. We were able now to announce that the tender just went out for that, and it should be closing very shortly. We had over 20 different companies to look at it, and the budget now is, with a lot of community help, a lot of businesses, we're looking at around $8 to $10 million. So it's going to be a facility with a conference center, and it's going to be a facility that we can afford to pay for, as opposed to stretching the tax dollar even farther. Servicing industrial land, I spoke about this earlier. We're probably going to be around $55 million to service 300 to 400 acres. And we have those acres, but unfortunately, when you're buying, companies are buying industrial land at 100 acres, we probably have enough land to last us 3 or 4 years. So whether we look at expanding that industrial park, which would end up to be an expropriation again, or we build a new industrial park somewhere else, and that's going to be a decision of our council too. So there's some tough decisions going ahead. YMCA Center for Life, I know Dave Allen, I think he's here, I noticed he has the same suit on, is really going well. And you're over your fundraising, some of your fundraising goals, you've achieved that. And that's done by all volunteers. So I know the board that are doing the fundraising, and all top-notch people that are out asking for money, and you put $10 in the jug to help Dave out on the way out the door. Doctor recruitment, when I got into doctor, in one of my campaign promises was we had to look at our doctor recruitment and how do we get it on steroids. Most municipalities have a dedicated doctor recruiter. So we found somebody, and it was under our nose. It was Karen Post that's sitting at the table, and I said I'd embarrass her here and there. But I went to Karen and I got in, and Karen was running the doctor recruitment program, but also running economic development, 6 or 7 things, Karen, and there just wasn't enough staff to dedicate anybody. So we talked Karen out of, or I talked her out of working in economic development, and we made her our doctor recruiter. Karen, I don't have to say anything about Karen Post because everybody knows how great of an employee she is. Well, Karen, I asked her the other day, I said, you know, would you rather go back in economic or would you rather stay in doctor recruitment? She said, Neil, I love my job, and if I could, I'd work it for free. That's how much I love it. So she asked me how long she had to stay for, and I said, well, until I was done. She doesn't realize I plan on running 2 more terms, so Karen's got 10 more years left. We adopted a new recruitment policy, or a new recruitment, and we've tweaked it. We haven't raised the amount that we're giving out because that is probably, we're the one leading amounts of $150,000 paid over 6 years. Karen recommended, and council's endorsed it, is to switch the payment plan and bring it back to 5 years. Just little things like this that she's been hearing out there from doctors that she's been trying to recruit. That would be one issue. We've advertised it now. Karen's pushed out a whole social media plan on it, and it's showing how it's made, or how it's been successful. Over the last month, Karen has successfully recruited four new doctors, and she has about 5 or 6 in the hamper. And I say Karen's probably better than the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Blue Jays, and I think at 5 we're asking about a 100%, about 70%. So hopefully there's some good announcements with that, and I know I have to talk to her at 9:30 about maybe some more good news. Karen started, again, council's endorsement, the nurse practitioners, and Karen's been able to recruit 5. Last council, I give them credit, started the scholarship program at White House College because we're short nurses, and I know my wife Sue's a nurse, and she's making a lot of double time right now for going in, and we have to concentrate on that, and the leadership in the last council have done that. Karen, I got a whole page on you here, so you might want to close your ears, I think, but I've done it already, most of it. Karen now recruits or goes to traveling road shows or medical job fairs, and you can see us here, and she invited me this one day too, and I believe that one's at Queens. We went to Ottawa for one, and Karen, I believe, has attended 4 or 5 by herself, and she's built a partnership with the other municipalities. We all have doctor recruiters, whether it's Prince Edward County, whether it's Northumberland, and she's built a relationship to all work together, because we know if Quinte West recruits a doctor or the county, it helps everybody. The social media program is their secret mix, so don't even put that in, and targeted universities with medical schools, and it's worked out. And I think as businesses, you realize if you're not into social media, you're not going to be successful. Hopefully, Karen, I didn't put too much pressure on you. Anyways, Karen and I have become good friends over the last 8 or 9 or 10 years. State of emergency. This is a tough decision that we pulled, or we endorsed in November. It started, we had over 100 overdoses in a week in the city, and at that time, council endorsed, at our next council meeting, endorsed a resolution that was passed by all council to try to fix the problem or try to address it to the province. And I could have brought the motion, but it's about 2 pages. Basically, they said to the province, we can't handle this. This is your issue. We can help with it, but we need all 3 levels of government. Here's the situation with 100 overdoses. The background on that, we sent the letter to them in November. They still haven't answered it. So, that's what the message was. Oh, somebody else wants to talk. So, when it hit in February, it was not great news. Fortunately, we didn't have any deaths, but we found out that we realized if this kept continuing, our services are maxed now, and they're going to be overmaxed. And with the state of emergency, it put us into a situation that it called out the province. And it put it on front and center across Canada. It was 4 weeks of media to say to the province, you don't have a plan. You're not looking at this. Talking to our provincial members, they're getting 1 call a week on the in-house. And, part of me, I said right out, is usually the unhoused or stressed people don't vote, and that's unfortunate because if it was a bigger cohort of different people that were affected, I think there would be more research or more of an answer. So with going through that, the Minister Taboli and I had some heated meetings, but we got through it, and we're talking now, and the province are saying what we're going to do is start the continuum of care model. So that goes from the bridge, and then it goes to a detox center, and then it goes to housing. So a detox center basically won't work if you don't find housing, and the gold standard is to find housing and then to fix the issues. So we've applied for a detox center. The minister has given me a big promise, but you know how politicians lie, and we might not get it, but I'm looking forward that we're going to get there. And the model is going to be a continuum of care. Without that housing, and he plans on building affordable housing, also are geared to income housing. If you have a detox center and you don't have the continuum of care model, the success is about 20%. So if you treat 100 people in a year, 80% are going to be back out in the same situation. With housing first and building through the model, you're at about an 80% increase or 80% success rate. Where do we start? And a lot of people have called me and said they don't want a detox center. So what is your idea? How do you solve this? Well, some people want them dead, some people want them bussed out of the city, but no real concrete answer. I get calls to say, these people aren't from Belleville. And I look at it, and the stats are about 67% are from the Quinnipiac region. How do you say you can come to Belleville? I mean, everybody wants to come here. A lot of people think it's the city's problem. And again, I spoke about that. But we got to start somewhere. These continuum care models, we will be a test facility, and the Ontario government have a plan, and their plan is to build them in most communities that have the same problem. Cobourg has homelessness, Deserano has homelessness, Bancroft has homelessness. Every city is faced with this issue, and as I say again, it's not going to get any better with the rents, and our population of the unhoused is moving up. And the unfortunate with the solution, all governments move slow, so if they depend on building a continuum care model, it's going to be well over 5 years before something like that happens, or ours will be up in 1 or 2. But to put them all over Ontario, it's a big step, and it's a lot of money. It's huge dollars to build basically a hospital that is going to house about 30 or 40 beds. But the minister, I've taken his word. I know Todd's pushing hard for this, and we've applied. We've gone through the steps. They've had consultants in to look at the area. So I'm very hopeful that model will start, and the federal or provincial and federal governments will both start putting money into geared to income and affordable housing. Our ask, again, what the government said to us, what our ask, and again, was a whole list of asks. We sat down with staffs, and it was probably 15 things that we wanted, and my suggestion was to cut it down to 3 simple things, and you can see the 3 things of supporting the hub, supporting a detox center, and basically some affordable housing. The bridge, the Alhambra Hall, we've gone to, we initially invested purchase for the Alhambra Hall. Renovations are probably going to be well around $4 or $4.5 million. There are some fundraising campaigns that are going on, and some asks to other organizations that I think will hopefully be some better announcements or some more money going into that to reach those goals. But the renovation will start at the Florida time, and that will move everything out of Bridge Street, as I said before. We have a warming center at the old police station, which will be closing, and the warming center will go at the new bridge at Alhambra Hall. Back to basically projected growth moving ahead. And I remember, and most people probably remember here, I think the sign on the highway said 39,000 people at one time, and it sat there for the longest time. It went up to just under 50, and since the last census, we are one of the fastest growing populations in not only Ontario and Canada. And you see that right now with the housing market. It's on the upswing now. Offers are getting to be close to asking price or some are over. So real estate did take a little bit of a dive, but people still want to move here. Why wouldn't you? When you look at a house or a townhouse in Brampton for $1 million, and you can come down here and buy a similar or better one for $600,000 to $700,000. Credit to our home builders and a credit to our economy. But those prices make it tough for your children and my children, and we're going to have to figure that out. Our growth, we're looking at over 10,000 units in our loyal secondary plan, which will be about 20,000. Our president of the Chamber of Commerce, he had his shirt on, he wore this every day, pretty well every morning for breakfast.
Just for you one day.
Just one day. So we stopped the picture, and Dale thought there was a lot of other pictures we were going to here, but we didn't. And I said, what goes on in Gun Po stays in Gun Po. And I just want to touch on that. It's been over 20 years that the sister city has been Gun Po and with Germany. We do have a Korean industry here. And Dale went and actually visited some of the executives at that because Dale used to work at Health. I just want to mention, I got a letter from a guy yesterday, and he was very sarcastic about, you know, going on a holiday and all that, and at the expense of the taxpayer's dollar. Chris paid for his trip, Catherine. On the other end, the Korean government does our housing, our lodging, and I think the total cost that council put on this trip is on a per diem and one lunch. And you know, it's sad that we get centered out, we get attacked. Why do people want to be in politics when you've got every armchair athlete or whatever you want to call them in the basement saying that you wasted our money? Well, you know, it's not true. When we started when I inherited the sister city and the Germany, both of them being our sister city, council in those days did have a trip paid. I stopped that in 2006. None of my councils over the last 3 terms, they've always paid their freight to go there. That was changed when I got back into the office. Last council, they were paid by the city. And I stopped it, and council agreed on it. It's our dime that we're paying, and if the citizens don't want us to go, then, you know, I'm sorry I cost you $10 on a per diem. Anyways, that's the fireworks today, that's the speech. Take any questions if there's anything here to answer. Don't make them tough, and don't ask me when Costco's coming, okay? No questions, I can get up here. Is that 9:15 or no? Okay, so no questions, great. So, and we got a great partnership with the Chamber, doing all our stuff.
And I mean, we're already beyond, so I guess you can wait till your next coffee break to get to work. Just want to thank you all for staying here this morning. I know that His Worship is definitely a speaker worth listening to. Thank you to Enbridge for giving us some great information about the work you're doing as well. And I'm looking forward to getting to know Donna a little better. She says she's got some community partnership dollars that maybe she can extend our way. And we'll be looking at making some of that happen for our events coming up this summer. I do want to say thank you for making time today, all of you, but especially for the Mayor, His Worship, and all the councillors who have come. This is a tradition that should not be taken for granted, and I want you to know how much we appreciate it. We enjoy a very special relationship with all of our elected officials, and the fact that you will make time and come into a room and be open to criticism, that you will be open to questions, and that you will be open to even a little bit of praise. I hope they get a little bit of that today. I just want to let you also know that the Chamber has been championing your voice. It was a brave call for that state of emergency, and we stepped up right away. Chief Callahan is the one who brought to our attention that detox centers were one of the methods to move towards recovery. We certainly need to still continue with preventative medicine or preventative care, but the Chamber, we are not the only community that's facing this. Just came back from Cook Timmins. There are 8 or 9 other communities that are facing the exact same problem we are. Their mayors weren't brave enough to bring us to the province this way. And I want to say that we have, the Belleville Chamber is getting known as being the big voice about it as well, because they can talk about Belleville on the stage, but they're a little bit more reluctant to talk to me. And we're saying, no, you have to acknowledge that this is a problem that has to be faced. So I don't know about Minister Chivolo and Neil, maybe they have a rockier relationship where it's getting better now. I've been invited to the table for May 22nd, so I'm going to be there and I'm going to make sure that they understand that Belleville is a community that needs support, and other communities across the province, and now becoming kind of the champion of finding a solution, because the cost of business is far beyond a counter sale downtown. This is something that's impacting businesses on expenses that they have to to encourage, to make their staff feel safe. There are so many repairs to their businesses, buildings, so it goes far beyond what we're seeing from a state of emergency. And this is just something we have to help people with. So I'll get off that soapbox, but just know it's there, and we're making sure that the business side of the voice is being heard. I want to just extend our condolences to the family of Jerry Lombard. He was our second Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, and he was still going strong in his 90s in 2018, but we were sad to hear of his passing earlier in March. For anyone who knows Bill Kerr, his passing earlier this month after a valiant fight with cancer knows that Black Bear won't be quite the same without him. And maybe not all of you will remember Irene Roloff Drew. She retired 20 years ago, but you've probably all seen Roloff's downtown. She was an icon of the downtown for 56 years and an aunt to both Lisa Grills and Maxine Hollings. So our condolences to your loss. So just a moment. Thank you. We haven't had a busy year so far. We have a lot more in store for you. May is the busiest month ever, I think. We have President's Dinner coming up on Thursday, May 30th, honoring this year's Cornerstone Awards. Maybe flipping things around, but it is our 160th birthday, so we are planning on throwing a great party. You can dress as your favorite party dress. No birthday suits, I think that's the one thing we're going to say. Tickets are available online. And we still have opportunities for sponsorships. If you prefer to help with a gift or prize, donations are also welcome. Just check in with Lisa. She writes some of this for me, just so you know. Our next mingle is hosted at Albert College on May 16th. Our last time was 7 years ago, so I'm excited to be back. And for anyone that hasn't had a chance to explore those hallowed halls, it's definitely worth a visit. Our annual AGM is being held on Friday, May 24th. This is our second meeting of members and perhaps the most important but fastest meeting of the year. We'll be swearing in the new board. We won't require an election to confirm the slate of directors this year. Outgoing board members include Anthony Callahan and Mike Callahan. Thank you so much for your service. And all other members are returning, and Jared Belmar is the newest addition to the slate, being voted on by you on May 24th. Dale's still here. Many thanks to Quiddy Gardens for hosting our AGM on the 24th. So our free lunch philosophy is working, and we appreciate their support with our past 2 lunch and learn sessions. So please be sure to register. Our next breakfast will be May 29th, feature Loyalist College President and CEO Mark Kirkpatrick. It has been 7 years since Loyalist's president has addressed our business community, and we look forward to that. So we've had some great lunch and learn sessions. Our next one will be coming up on Friday, June 7th. We might try to tuck in another one on AI, but we'll make that virtual. And Peter Young does amazing things with virtual encounters, how you can move into the world of virtual reality and integration, how you can use immersive experiences to help your business with onboarding, training, enhancing skills, team building, and so much more. Golf.